human digestive system, the digestion of a cheeseburger. So, let's begin. A standard cheeseburger consists of a bun which has carbohydrates, a meat patty which includes proteins, it has tomato and lettuce which are the vitamins, and of course you cannot have a cheeseburger without cheese, which is a fat or lipid. The cheeseburger enters the alimentary canal, which is the whole process of digestion. As soon as the cheeseburger enters the mouth, the digestion begins. The cheeseburger is then broken down into smaller pieces in the mouth by chewing with our teeth. This is an example of mechanical digestion. The teeth cut and crush the burger using the incisors, the front teeth that are quite flat and sharp for biting and cutting, the canine teeth, the sharp pointy ones. They also assist the incisors to hold and cut the burger. The premolar and molar teeth, the flat and wide ones at the back of your mouth that chew and crush the burger. The pieces are then mixed with saliva from the salivary glands, which contain amylase. Amylase is an enzyme found in saliva that converts starch and glycogen, which is in our bun, to help us break it into simpler sugars or glucose and maltose. This part of digestion can be both chemical and mechanical digestion, because the saliva, the chemical part of digestion, the tongue, work together, which is a mechanical part of digestion. The amylase mixes with the pieces of the burger to form a wet ball called bolus. Once the burger is in the mouth and has been chewed into form a bolus, the burger passes down to the esophagus. But before passing down to the esophagus, the bolus has to pass quite a few things. So, as the food is swallowed, the soft palate blocks the upper throat, which is called the pharynx, which prevents the entry of food into the nasal cavity. Then it passes over the epiglottis, which is a flap-like structure which prevents the entry of food into the trachea. The food pushes down the epiglottis. So now the bolus is in the esophagus. Here the bolus will feel a massaging feeling a massaging feeling is once the burger is in the mouth and has been chewed to form a bolus. The burger passes down to the esophagus. The esophagus is a long muscular tube which the burger is moved through by a process called peristalsis. This is part of mechanical digestion. Peristalsis is when two sets of muscles in the gut wall are involved. Circular muscles, which reduce the diameter of the gut when they contract, and the longitudinal muscles, which reduce the length of the gut when they contract. These muscles work together to produce wave-like contractions. These have a squeezing action that passes the bolus through the gut. So, a valve called the LES, the lower esophageal sphincter, is located just before the opening to the stomach. This valve opens to let food pass into the stomach, and it prevents food from moving back up into the esophagus from the stomach. The bolus then goes to the stomach, which is a muscular organ where the breakdown of large insoluble burger molecules break down into small water-soluble molecules using mechanical digestion. The pepsin enzyme in the stomach then breaks down the protein of the meat patty and turn them into amino acids, which is another example of chemical digestion and will kind of hurt the cheeseburger. The stomach produces hydrochloric acid. It kills many harmful microorganisms that might have been swallowed along with the burger. The pepsin enzymes in the stomach works best at acidic conditions. Another part of chemical digestion in the stomach is lipase. Lipase is an enzyme the body uses to break down fats in the burger so they can be absorbed in the intestines. So here it shows that the bacteria is killed by the hydrochloric acid which is present in the stomach. And there is a mucous membrane in the stomach which saves the outer wall of the stomach from the high acidity inside. So now let's talk a bit about the liver before we move on. So bile is a substance produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder. The bile is secreted into a small intestine where it has two effects. It neutralizes the acid which provides the alkaline conditions needed in the small intestine, and it emulsifies the fats which provides larger surface area over which the enzyme can work. So now let's talk about the small intestine. So now let's talk a bit about the gallbladder, the pancreas. The gallbladder is solely used for storage and eventual release of bile into the duodenum. So when the cheeseburger felt the green liquid being poured on her, it was the bile that was released from the gallbladder. Pancreas plays a crucial supporting role in digestion. It releases certain enzymes to help break down food, like lipase to break down lipids and amylase to break down carbohydrates. It also releases hormones to control the blood sugar level in the body. Insulin is released to lower the blood sugar level, and glucose is released to increase the blood sugar level. So now the cheeseburger will move on into the small intestine. So this small intestine is a site of virtually all nutrient absorption, including proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and water, as well as vitamins and minerals. Despite the small intestine's name, it's very, very long. The reason why it's actually called the small intestine is that it is very thin, but it is actually longer than the large intestine. The enzymes in the small intestine work best in alkaline conditions, but the burger is acidic after being in the stomach. Maltose is another enzyme in the small intestine where maltose is broken down into glucose. This is chemical digestion. Absorption is the movement of the digested burger molecules through the wall of the intestine into the blood or the lymph. The small intestine is the region where the digested cheeseburger is absorbed. Most absorption happens in the ileum, where the remaining nutrients are absorbed before moving into the large intestine. The longest part of the small intestine and is between 2 to 4 meters. The small intestine has a large internal surface area for absorption to happen quickly and efficiently. So, the villi are tiny finger-shaped structures that increase the surface area in the small intestine. They have several important features. Their wall is just one cell thick, which ensures that there is only a short distance for absorption to happen by diffusion and active transport. Their network of blood capillaries transport glucose and amino acids away from the small intestine in the blood, and internal structure called the lactical transports fatty acids and glycerol away from the small intestine in the lymph. The small intestine absorbs most of the water in the contents of the gut. By the time the burger reaches the end of the small intestine, most of the digested burger had already been absorbed. The remaining material consists of water, bacteria, cells from the lining of the gut, and indigestible substances such as cellulose from the plant cell walls. So here, the large intestine, although shorter than the small intestine in length, is considerably thicker in diameter, thus giving its name. It absorbs most of the remaining water. So the anus and the rectum. The rectum is an 8-inch chamber that connects the large intestine to the anus. The rectum receives stool from the large intestine, sends signals to the brain if there is stool to be excreted, and holds the stool until evacuation can happen. So now the last part of the digestive system. The anus controls the pelvic floor muscles and two anal sphincters, internal and external. Together their jobs is to detect contents in the rectum, determine whether the contents are liquid, solid or gas, and then control when stool should or shouldn't be excreted from the body.